Joining us now might have more answers on all of it. Also, a guy who is currently, this guy's spotlighting a bunch of malarkey.
What's that about?
Ladies and gentlemen, senior NFL insider for ESPN, Michigan man, friend of the program, Adam Schefter.
Yeah.
Shefty,
Happy Monday, man.
Hey, happy Monday to you. Happy Overreaction Monday on this championship Monday after we have now found our champions for the AFC and the NFC. And, you know what, Shefty, great season this year out of you. Now, I didn't know you were a conspiracy theorist, though.
Whoa.
I didn't know that you like to amplify everything that's happening on the internet. I didn't know that you like to spread misinformation or propaganda about the NFL and the refs wanting the Chiefs to win. I saw your mentions after you put this out. You obviously were getting cooked, but this is a real convo that's happening around NFL fan bases. They think that the NFL wants the Chiefs to win. Now, we have certainly talked about this. What are your thoughts on it all, and how do you see this playing out for future conversations with the NFL?
You know, Pat, I would just say this. Again, the facts are the facts. I presented facts. There was zero, let me be very clear about that, zero intent behind that. I'm a little surprised that people are so offended with factual information. There was zero agenda. Zero agenda. It was a number, some stats in conjunction with a story that the NFL is considering expanding replay assist to include plays that include quarterback slides. That's it. Those are the numbers. That's it. No agenda. Listen, honestly, what the Chiefs are doing is incredible. Who doesn't like watching somebody do something that has never been done in the NFL ever?
Well,
a three-time champion.
A lot of people, Shefty. A lot of people are hating this.
Well, okay. Again, I'm not in that camp. I'm just telling you, when that information comes out, the news is that the NFL is going to be expanding replay assist. They're probably going to include the quarterback slide. And here are some numbers. Sorry that offended people. There was zero intent. Just to be very clear about that.
Okay, I appreciate that. And also, you're trying to give credit to Hembo, who dug up all these stats and everything. We love Hembo. He sends us a lot of stats. He is the weapon behind a lot of ESPN's folks' talking points, whether he gets credit for it or not. He does not care, but I appreciate you giving him some love in this entire thing. And the conversation isn't like, well, Andy Reid has a more disciplined team than other teams. The conversation is the refs are just assisting the Chiefs, and that's not you starting that conversation. That is a conversation that is taking place. Let's move away from that. Let's move along. Injuries on the Eagles' offensive line, obviously a massive convo here. We think 2 weeks is going to be enough for Lando and for Cam to get completely healthy, or what are we expecting there?
Well, look, Cam Jurgens came in and gutted it out and was able to play through a back injury that they didn't think he was going to be able to play with. They kept him there as an emergency center. He was used in an emergency when Landon Dickerson could barely walk out there. They need one of them out there for the Super Bowl. I would think that both of them will have a real chance to be out there with the extra week of work. If they had to play the Super Bowl in a short week, that might be a big problem, but I'm sure the extra week will do well for both guys and their chances of being back out there on Super Bowl Sunday. But that was a gritty effort by that Eagles line. It's been the strength of the team all year long. They make things happen. They continue to make things happen. And you're wondering, you're like, are they going to run out of bodies there? Because it was incredible to see Jurgens initially. We thought he wasn't going to play. Then he's active. You're like, he's active. Whoa. But then he doesn't start. Dickerson's starting. They put Tyler Steen in at guard, which is what I think they were planning all along to do. And then Dickerson can't make it through, and Jurgens comes back. It was pretty impressive to see what these guys fought through to play and win that game and play the way they did.
Yeah, I think Cam Jurgens came out and said, like, Sirianni basically, motivate. There's not. I would have, He came out and gave a full quote at his locker, basically chit-chatting about the mindset of the team, how tight the team is, how close they are, how much of a family they are. So if you can play, you're going to play for your team. Yeah. And Sirianni doesn't do anything is what everybody says. But then Cam Jurgens is like, well, the fact that we have such a family here led by Sirianni is the only reason why I go out there and do that. What a beautiful team. 2 Super Bowl appearances in 4 years as a head coach for Coach Sirianni, and he has taken flack through it all. What are the reports out of Philadelphia about Sirianni? Is he getting a lifetime contract now, Coach?
So we've gone from basically firing him to giving him a lifetime deal. I just think it's so funny.
Who's we? That's maybe you and Dan Orlovsky, not us. Not this program.
Not me.
Not this program.
Not me.
Yeah, all right.
Not me.
ESPN,
Not me.
though. Hey, I don't know if you saw this. ESPN as a whole is obviously
all season long.
All season long.
Weakest
Barry
link.
Sirianni. He was the lower third. Now, once again, we are very appreciative of First Take and Get Up. We watch every single morning. We love them. We love everybody a part of all of it. But some of their bottom lines, whenever Sirianni was leading his team to home field advantage and everything like that, and winning, it's like, is Sirianni the dumbest person to ever be a head coach? Is Sirianni trustworthy? Is Sirianni the worst person ever in the NFL? Is Sirianni the worst Italian to ever be an Italian? Like, those were the things that are being said about him all season long. Now he has his second Super Bowl appearance. What is the thought of Coach Sirianni over there in Philadelphia? And Howie and Jeff obviously have to love this man for everything he's done.
Well, of course. And again, you're talking about a lifetime contract, but I think obviously when you see head coach salaries exploding the way they are across the league, I think it only stands to reason that Nick Sirianni is going to want to get an extension. He's going to want to get a raise. I don't know that, but I mean, it's logical to assume that. They're back in the Super Bowl again. If they win it, that is the goal of everybody. So that's leverage for him. And I have to see how many years he has left in his contract, but it's amazing to me that all year long, to your point, there are people that have criticized and questioned Nick. There are people that have criticized and questioned Jalen Hurts and the Eagles passing game. There are people that question this team just not stepping up. And in the end, here they are back in the Super Bowl with a chance now to go up against the Kansas City Chiefs for the second time in 3 years in the Super Bowl. See how it works out. Like, again, these things, they usually sort themselves out one way or another by the time the end of the year rolls around, right? There are people that start hot and fade out. There are people that fade out or start slow and then gain steam. And usually things work out the way they should. And the Eagles had a slow start where people were questioning them, criticizing them, Nick, Jalen, the team, whoever.
They're still winning.
And here they are rolling along. Jalen Hurts has won, I think it's the last 13 games he started and finished, the last 13. So his track record has been pretty good there, despite the fact that people are wondering why is the Eagles' passing game not operating at a higher level. Looked like he hit on some pretty good throws there to me yesterday. And they find a way to win, just like the Chiefs find a way to win. And that's what makes this Super Bowl compelling, because neither one of these teams usually beats itself.
A lot of people are saying this is the least liked Super Bowl in history. Obviously, nobody enjoys.
History, wow.
Yeah, well, that's the world we live in. That's the world we live in. And I assume there's been Super Bowls in the past where teams have been hated, but you weren't able to tweet about it, which is a good thing, not a bad thing in my eyes. But the world will watch these two do battle. Was anybody happier about the outcome of that Eagles-Commanders game than Dan Snyder yesterday? Obviously, the story came out that he hates what's happening with Washington. And he actually, at the very beginning of Josh Harris's ownership here, was thinking about backing out on the deal. And I think the metaphor, or maybe the reality, was not turning over the keys to the building or to the stadium. Is that real? And how do we get to this point?
Yeah, Seth Wickersham and Don Van Natter wrote about it this past weekend, and there were people that felt like he was trying to not go through on the deal before it wound up going through. They recommended that he would go through on the deal, which he did. And look, it's just a different day and age. There's a totally different mood surrounding that team. There's a totally different outlook surrounding the team. Even after they lost, you heard about the fact that here were the owners down in the locker room going play-by-player, player to player, thanking them for the type of season that they provided, wishing them the luck for the future, and looking forward to continuing the relationship. And again, I'm not going to say that Dan Snyder never did that. They weren't in that NFC Championship game under him, but it just feels like from the people there that this ownership group cares about the players and the team, and there's a different mindset there now. And I think that was reflected in the way that this team performed this year, getting to the NFC Championship game, coming up short, but giving this team hope. They have a quarterback that you could argue is as good as any in the NFC and a top 5 quarterback in the NFL right now. Yes. You could make that argument. Mm-hmm. And he's got a huge future, and that team should be positioned to succeed and have more conference championship games in the future. And I would think that they'll learn from what they went through yesterday and be better for it in future years.
Agreed. And I'm happy that Dan Snyder's just got to sit on his yacht over there and just, somebody needs to hurt this Jaden Daniels. I hate this guy. He's so good. Yeah, so much fun to watch. All right, let's go over the AFC game, shall we? Ty has a question for you.
Yeah, Schefter, I wouldn't expect anything to happen, but obviously after the game, a lot of Bills fans calling for Sean McDermott's head. And whether it's, right, wrong, or indifferent, he obviously just can't beat the Chiefs in the playoffs. Is there any chance the Bills consider making a move there? Does he go into next season potentially on the hot seat in order for them to eventually try to get over the hump and be able to beat the Chiefs in the playoffs and not waste Josh Allen's prime?
Didn't he sign an extension? And again, it's just so funny to me how this goes in the world that we live in. Because up until yesterday, everybody was talking about what a great job Sean McDermott did. He had put this team where it is. Everybody talked about how he's grown and learned, and he's giving great pregame speeches. And so they lose, and now people are asking that question. And that's what happens when you lose in the NFL. I don't see it happening. I never rule out anything because you never know in this league, and people do wild and crazy things. And as we say all the time, it's the greatest reality show going. But I think up until yesterday, they've been really happy with Sean McDermott, and I haven't seen any evidence that they would move off that. But I guess anything's always possible.
Why is James Cook not in the game?
A lot.
A lot of questions. A lot of questions about a lot of different situations, but obviously he'll have to answer those on his own time. Let's talk about one particular play that could have changed a potential outcome and maybe changes the future of the NFL. Go ahead, Con Man.
Yeah, Schefter, you reported, and I think you've talked about on the show before, about how NFL replay assist is going to, kind of be developed more and used more next season. Is there any way they're going to use that for these first downs? Because obviously we've talked about the microchip in the ball, but they don't use the microchip to rule first downs. Will NFL replay assist kind of help with that? Because obviously this is impossible to overturn and it's tough to tell, but even the play before with Dalton Kincaid where it looked as though he landed directly on the line and that was ruled not a first down. So is that going to be part of the development with the replay assist?
I forgot that was the play before. Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, people are pissed, Shefty. People are pissed. Yeah. Chiefs benefit from it, obviously.
Big time.
People get very touchy about officiating topics. I see. I very touchy.
Very. Yeah.
I think that didn't the league experiment this past summer? Not to go back and look and find out more, but didn't the league with the electronic marking, whether that's the chip,
Hawkeye technology? It just took too long. Remember, it took like 30 minutes, seemingly. I think it was like 4 minutes to decide whether or not something was in or out. And they decided they were supposed to do it this season. Then it took too long. They're like, we're getting rid of this. This is way. And then they brought the chains back.
Didn't work in bad weather either.
Yeah, because the technology.
Play the Dawson Knox play again. I want to see that again.
Oh, Shefty wants to give a read on.
I just want to see it. Because I forgot that was the play before. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah,
Shefty, we're all saying it. Yeah, we all think. I'm like the biggest Chiefs is still the Chiefs guy, but watching these two plays consecutively, it's like, that is really tough. But the chip in the ball was supposed to be the answer. Then they tried it at the beginning of the year, and it was horrendous. And to your point, bad weather wasn't going to be able to operate efficiently, and then even when it was super slow, which is the last thing the NFL wants.
But you got two officials from opposite ends trying to make a ruling. They obviously see it differently because one of them marked it as first down, one of them didn't. And again, we're living in 2025. There is so much technology to do so many different things, and we can't figure out exactly where the football should be spotted. I mean, it's wild that that's the day and age that we're living in, considering all the technology. And so that's what I thought this summer was about. Is the chip in the ball or the electronic spotting system, however they did it. And I got to hear more about whatever came of that because you don't want to have plays decided like that where there's a question at all.
I forget what game yesterday, maybe the AFC game. It was ruled a first down. Then after further conversation, they brought it back to like a third down, I think, in short. So they're utilizing the the further conversation, replay assist in certainly important times. Catches, penalties. I think refs, quarterbacks, you reported whether or not they get hit in the head is going to be used in the future. The spotting of the ball, though, we thought the chip was going to be the answer. And then it turns out the chip was like the slowest thing of all time. Stinks. Yeah, they were like, the chip stinks, so we can't do it. Has to be something.
By the way, when we watch golf, they got golf balls like where they're going in the air, the speed they're going at, like all kinds of things. We can't figure out where a football is on a field, like compared to that golf ball as you're seeing the flight of it take hold on the PGA Tour. Like, I mean,
a tracker
device, the technology that they have surrounding all that. To me, there has to be something that can be done. This is more efficient than a chain gang. I mean, the league was using the chain gang in 1920, and we're still in the chain gang.
Maybe even earlier than that.
100 years later?
As the great Mark Caboli said, we can catch a rocket coming back from space, but we can't figure out where the hell the ball is on a fourth down quarterback carry. That is very real.
Yeah.
I mean, as everything changes, the more it stays the same. It feels like, all right, let's get away from the championship games. Let's talk about some big stories. Cowboys fans are pumped about Schotty being the new head coach. D-Bud has a question for you.
Obviously, your fan base got a lot to say about the Brian Schottenheimer hire at head coach, but the coordinators, I assume Schotty's going to be calling plays on offense, but are they closing in on their defensive coordinator out in Dallas?
I think everybody has expected all along that it'll be Matt Eberflus. There's a process that they have to go through. I'm sure in the end that he will wind up being the guy. You know, the funny thing, on Friday night, Jerry calls and he starts going into this whole big, long explanation. You know, Brian Schottenheimer, he ain't nothing more than an assistant coach. He's never been more than an assistant coach. Everyone's talking about him, say, hey, why are they talking about him as my head coach? He's an assistant coach. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, like he's kind of taking on Brian Schottenheimer. And then he just stops cold, pivots, and goes, well, he ain't Brian the assistant anymore. He is now the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. And he was very excited about Brian Schottenheimer being the head coach. I know Cowboys fans, not all of them, are all thrilled about the decision, but Jerry believes that he's got this one right, and he believes that Brian Schottenheimer is going to be a great head coach, and he was all excited and pumped up about it.
Yeah, Schotty obviously has grown up in the NFL. Mm-hmm. His dad, historic head coach. Yep. He had opportunities 15 years ago to be a head coach, passed on him to remain an offense coordinator. He was in Indianapolis. He was time in Seattle, obviously down there in Dallas. He's been around. He's seen a lot of football. He's been around a lot of football. I like Schotty personally from the year that I got to spend around him in Indianapolis. I think, who knows if he's going to be a great head coach. That's why everybody just assuming he's going to be ass is awesome.
Let me tell you something.
Because who knows if any of these guys are going to be head coach.
Can I just tell you something? Picking a head coach is not altogether dissimilar from drafting somebody in the first round. You do your research, you make your calls, you talk to the people, you make at that time the best decision you feel you can make, and then you keep your fingers crossed that it's going to work. Because look at the track record of all the coaches who have been hired over the last 10, 20, 30 years, forever.
Yeah.
Every team always thinks it's hiring the next Vince Lombardi, and it doesn't work out like that. That's why there are 7 or 8 firings every year. Why the whole league turns over every 4 years.
What was the number? $800 million paid to fired head coaches or something?
Dead money.
Yeah, and dead money to fired head coaches and coaching staffs from around the NFL. It's really hard to find a good head coach. Dallas Cowboys fans say, well, Jerry didn't do. He didn't find a good head coach in Schotty. Who knows how he'll be? Now, Jerry Jones, Andrew Siciliano, shout out to Siciliano, reports that Jerry Jones says, this is as big of a risk as you can take. No head coaching experience. It's almost like Jerry's selling it to you. He's like, you're not supposed to hire this guy. Not supposed to hire this guy. It's almost like he's like, I found a guy. Nobody else.
He prides himself on that. I think he feels like he has taken risks and done certain things and made decisions that others wouldn't make, and he's built his career off that. And I think that that's probably, to a certain extent, what he's doing now. He feels like he's identified somebody that he feels like other people feel like he's taking a risk, and he doesn't see it in quite the same way that other people do.
He said, whenever you're about 255 yards away from the green on a par 5, and there's water in front and the sand trap, he said a lot of people think they need to lay up, get on there, and maybe putt for birdie. I'm up in that water.
Yeah.
And that's going to happen. But at least I can go to sleep knowing that I want for an eagle, not for a birdie. I want for a big bird, not a little bird. I want for it every time. That's how Jerry describes his decisions and his business-making decisions. And all his fans say is, well, get the eagle finally then, because you landed in the water every single time. Maybe Schotty's the one that's able to get the Cowboys back to relevance, prominence, and championship status. But the fans say he's got no shot. There's only one job open now. Tone has a question for you.
That is true, Schefter. 31 of 32 teams have their head coach. The only team left is the New Orleans Saints. I believe Mike Kafka's got an interview lined up. Mike McCarthy's been talked about going there. Kellen Moore potentially, Cliff Kingsbury. What's the latest on our last coaching search down in New Orleans?
They're going to talk to Kellen Moore this week. They're going to talk to Mike McCarthy this week. Anthony Weaver, the Dolphins defensive coordinator, had what I was told was a pretty impressive interview this past weekend, as did Mike Kafka, the Giants offensive coordinator. I still look at it logically. Nobody said this to me, assessing it the way I have. I think Mike McCarthy probably is the guy to beat for that job, and we'll see how it shakes out because there are other qualified candidates. But I think most people have thought that New Orleans all along would be Aaron Glenn or Mike McCarthy. Those are the two names that I heard most often all along. Aaron Glenn's in New York. Mike McCarthy's still out there. And now we'll wait to see where it goes.
Okay, the Jets hired their GM over the weekend as well, maybe on Friday, from the Denver Broncos named Moogie?
Darren Muji.
Muji, that's a good name.
Like bougie.
Like Bougie, yeah.
Got Bougie going to the
Like
Jets.
Bougie, yeah. Darren Muji.
Hey, do you know anything about Aaron Glenn, Aaron Rodgers, and the future of that entire place over there or no?
They're going to be speaking at some point in time, and I think Aaron has to decide first and foremost whether he wants to play. And then he and Aaron Glenn will discuss it, and they can figure out what is best for both sides.
Yeah, well, he's open to anything, attached to nothing. That's
right.
He said he would go back to the Jets if he wanted to play, and they wanted him back. He doesn't know Aaron Glenn, I don't think, from our source. Doesn't know much about him, but obviously has massive respect for him. How could you not? Former player that has become an absolute dog. Speaking of that, congrats to Kelvin Shepard, our former teammate.
Yeah.
New DC of the Detroit Lions. I love that man. I really enjoyed being a teammate with him. I enjoyed his presence in the locker room.
Oh, yeah.
I enjoyed his attention to detail. I enjoyed his accountability. I like the way he coaches too. We saw him on Hard Knocks, obviously, with the Detroit Lions. I think he's going to do a great job. Shout out to Motor City Dan Campbell, giving him an opportunity to be DC. And if McCarthy's down there in New Orleans, he's going to be red.
Oh, man.
He and I have similar pigment, and it gets hot down there.
Toasty.
Snow down there, though, last week.
Yeah, almost
true.
foot.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a little different, I guess. When are you heading
When are
down?
you guys going down there next week? When are you going down?
That's what I was going to. I think we're heading down on Wednesday. I think, brother, we'll be down there on Wednesday. How about you?
I'm taking my daughter on Sunday because she's got to do media night for Nickelodeon. So I'll be down there Sunday.
Oh, nice. So media nights on Sunday?
Media night's on Monday night.
We've
So we go
never
down Sunday
gone to
night.
that.
Never.
No.
I don't think we've ever.
Because
You would like that. You would like that. It's kind of fun. It's like every player, every coach.
Oh, yeah, it's
every
real
member.
zany right in there. Always some zany.
Yeah, you get
Yeah,
slimed.
yeah.
real
Bunch of
zany.
goofballs.
It is. It's goofball town down there. But it is a nice kickoff to the biggest week of the year for the NFL. Congrats to the Eagles. Congrats to the Chiefs. Any other storylines or things that we didn't talk about that we should mention?
Well, now you got the Saints still out there. You got the Jaguars looking for a GM. So those are the two big hires. Then you got a lot of teams looking for coordinators at this point in time. That's the next little hiring cycle that I guess we're going to go through here. But most of those jobs have been filled. And offensive coordinator of Detroit, I would expect that to be Johnny Morton, the Broncos passing game coordinator.
Okay.
See how that works out.
Hell yeah.
You write that down.
Johnny
Go,
Mo.
Johnny.
Johnny. What about Bobby Slowick? Where's he going to end up? Vegas?
I don't know. I mean, just like on Friday, I don't have a landing spot for him. In Vegas, I know one of the names under consideration there is Darrell Bevel, who used to work with Pete in Seattle. He's in play there. He'll be in play in New Orleans as well. There are a few guys out there. Bobby Slowick, I'm sure, definitely all these teams with openings are making calls and trying to figure out, okay, well,
What a weird
is this?
timing to fire Slowick.
Yeah, wild.
Kind of put him in a bad spot. What happened? How'd that?
Well, a year ago, he was one of the hot head coaching candidates, and a year later, he's fired, which is exactly why Ben Johnson wasn't going back to Detroit this year, because you don't know as an assistant coach when your time is going to come along to be hired or when it's going to go the other way. You got to cash in while you can. With Bobby Slowick, the offense, I think they felt like it regressed. It wasn't getting better. The offensive line didn't protect well. Opponents were figuring them out. It's just a weird deal because he's a good coach and he's going to do well in the future. And I think one day he'll be a head coach. But Houston felt like it was best to move on right now.
The timing of the fire, though, kind of put him behind the 8 ball on a lot of these jobs.
They had a storm there. It would have happened earlier in the week, I think. But there was a little storm there. People were out of the building, and then they were back in the building end of the week is when it happened.
So that wasn't like a vindictive, visceral fire. No, okay, got it. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Yeah, what about Declan Doyle, Schefter? He's 28 years old as the OC of the Bears. Is that the youngest coordinator or one of the youngest coordinators ever? And is he the next kind of prince who was promised? Yeah, he's only 28 years old.
Sheesh.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I was on the phone this morning with Denver, right? Like, Denver turned it around this year and did an unbelievable job with all this dead cap money. And now we got everybody rating the Broncos staff here. Like Darren Muji's a GM. Johnny Morton, we think, is going to wind up being the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. Declan Doyle, now the offensive coordinator.
That's definitely not how you pronounce that.
Declan.
It's not going to be Declan Doyle.
How do you say it? Declan Doyle.
Declan.
No?
Yeah, I would assume it's Declan, not Dickland.
Declan.
Like you just said. Jeez,
I didn't say that, Pat. You did.
No, I'm repeating what my journalist friend said there.
Fun fact: he's the nephew of Mike Ditka.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, it's in his blood.
That is a fun fact.
Chris Doyle, former Iowa strength coach. It's his son.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that guy.
I remember that.
Yeah, we know that guy. Yeah, attention to detail now. Accountability.
That's right.
He has some opinions on some things.
Yes, he
For
does.
sure.
Yeah, all right. Hey, Schefty, we appreciate the hell out of you, brother.
Hey, thank you, guys. I appreciate you. I'll look forward to seeing you in New Orleans. I'm sure I'll be hearing from you this week at some point in time, right?
I hope so. Yeah, because we're at the time where we don't have shit to talk about. So we'll give you a call and say, hey, Schefty, what fake stuff are you drumming up? And then you'll come right on in. We appreciate you. Good luck in those Twitter streets as you are being attacked viciously from this entire thing.
Pat, we just try to stick to the facts. That's it. Zero intention, zero agenda. That's it.
Yeah, but what facts do you present and what facts do you withhold are always, that's the decision. That's journalism, baby. That's journalism. We appreciate you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, guys.
Adam Schefter.
Yeah.